The ancient Greek world, a civilization cradled by the Aegean Sea, was a realm where the divine permeated every aspect of human existence. From the rustling leaves of an olive grove to the thunderous crash of waves against the shore, the presence of powerful, often capricious, deities was keenly felt. In such a landscape, where natural phenomena were imbued with supernatural significance, the origins of suffering and sickness became deeply intertwined with the will of the gods. For these early thinkers, the inexplicable nature of disease, its sudden onset, and its devastating spread, defied simple material explanations. Without microscopes to reveal unseen pathogens or a developed understanding of physiology, the invisible forces that ravaged bodies and communities could only be attributed to powers beyond human comprehension. The gods, residing on Mount Olympus, were the most logical and formidable candidates for wielding such potent, unseen influence. The pantheon of Greek deities was not merely a collection of distant, abstract entities, they were intensely personal and often anthropomorphic beings. They displayed human emotions, harbored grudges, and intervened directly in mortal affairs, sometimes benevolently, often punitively. This direct engagement meant that every stroke of fortune or misfortune, including the scourge of illness, could be interpreted as a deliberate act of divine will. One of the most pervasive beliefs was that disease served as divine punishment for human transgressions. Acts of hubris, impiety towards the gods, broken oaths, or moral failings were seen as affronts that invited divine wrath. A sudden plague sweeping through a city might not be a random occurrence, but a clear sign that the community, or perhaps its leaders, had offended a powerful deity. The epic poems, foundational texts of Greek culture, frequently illustrate this divine causality. Homer's Iliad famously opens with the Achaeans suffering from a plague sent by Apollo. The god, enraged by Agamemnon's disrespect towards his priest Chryses, rained down arrows of pestilence upon the Greek camp. This narrative firmly established disease as a direct instrument of divine retribution, a swift and terrible consequence of human arrogance. Moreover, the Greeks understood disease not just as individual punishment but also as collective retribution. If a city or a people committed a grave sin, the entire populace might suffer the consequences, fostering a communal sense of guilt and a desperate need for appeasement. Rituals, sacrifices, and prayers were thus performed not only for personal healing but also for the purification of the community, hoping to avert or end an epidemic. Beyond direct punishment, disease could also be perceived as a divine test or a warning. A period of illness might be a challenge from the gods, designed to strengthen character or impart a crucial lesson. It could also serve as an ominous portent, signaling impending doom or guiding mortals towards a specific course of action. The gods' motives were complex, mirroring the intricate and often contradictory nature of human experience. The very unpredictability of illness further reinforced these divine attributions. One person might succumb rapidly, while another, exposed to the same conditions, remained untouched. Such arbitrary patterns seemed to defy any natural order, pointing instead to the whimsical or specific targeting power of the gods. The lack of a discernible, consistent pattern made a supernatural explanation all the more compelling. In this context, the role of oracles and priests became critically important. When faced with an outbreak of disease, people would turn to these intermediaries to discern which god had been offended and what actions were required to appease them. The pronouncements from places like the oracle at Delphi often guided civic and personal responses to illness, shaping public policy and private rituals. Sacred sites dedicated to healing deities emerged as vital centers for those seeking relief. Asclepius, the son of Apollo, was revered as the god of medicine, and his temples, known as Asclepia, dotted the Greek landscape. Here, sufferers would undergo rituals of purification, make offerings, and sleep within the temple precincts, hoping to receive a cure through divine intervention, often manifesting as dreams or visions. These healing practices were not seen as an alternative to divine will but rather as an engagement with it. The temple physicians, often priests themselves, understood their role as facilitating the gods' healing power, rather than solely relying on empirical knowledge. Healing was a spiritual process, a petition to the divine for restoration of health and balance. Yet, even as these beliefs held sway, the seeds of a more rational approach to understanding disease were beginning to sprout. Early Greek philosophers, the pre-Socratics, began to question purely supernatural explanations for natural phenomena. Thinkers like Thales and Anaximander sought material causes for the world around them, a nascent shift that would eventually extend to the human body. This intellectual ferment culminated in figures like Hippocrates, often hailed as the father of medicine. He and his followers proposed that diseases had natural, rather than divine, causes. They developed the theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, suggesting that an imbalance in these bodily fluids led to illness. This was a revolutionary departure, placing the locus of disease within the body itself, rather than in the heavens. The Hippocratic tradition emphasized observation, clinical examination, and a holistic approach to patient care, focusing on diet, exercise, and environment. Though their understanding of physiology was rudimentary by modern standards, their insistence on natural causes marked a profound intellectual shift, laying the groundwork for scientific medicine. They sought to understand the how of disease, even if the ultimate why remained elusive. However, this transition was not instantaneous or absolute. For centuries, rational and supernatural explanations for disease coexisted. In times of widespread pestilence, when human remedies proved futile, even those inclined towards natural explanations might revert to invoking divine aid. The comfort and sense of control offered by attributing illness to a god, and thus having a path to appeasement, remained powerful. The human mind, throughout history, has sought to impose order and meaning upon the chaos of existence. In the absence of scientific understanding, attributing disease to the gods provided a coherent framework, a moral explanation for suffering, and a tangible avenue for action through prayer and ritual. It gave meaning to pain and offered a glimmer of hope that through piety, health could be restored. Ultimately, the ancient Greek understanding of disease, rooted in the divine, reflects a fundamental human need to comprehend the forces that shape life and death. It speaks to an era when the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural were fluid, and the cosmos was a living entity, responsive to human action. While our scientific understanding has evolved dramatically, the underlying human quest for meaning in the face of suffering endures. It is a testament to the enduring human spirit of inquiry, forever striving to unravel the mysteries of existence, from the microscopic to the cosmic.